I'm excited to have my friend and business partner, Ken Swartz, joining us today on C60 Health Connections. Ken is a research scientist, a biogeochemist, and the founder and chief science officer at C60 Power. Now, we're going to dive into a conversation that a lot of people today, they just don't have an awareness about. And I want to talk about mitochondrial health with you, Ken, because our cellular health is so very important, and many people just don't even know what's going on inside their bodies. So given your background in science and chemistry, can you please help us understand, and if you wouldn't mind, bring this down to a level where those of us who don't have your background can track with you, because I don't want to go high level. I want to go medium level, or maybe like a lower level science conversation. So let's talk all about mitochondria. So maybe you can just give us a little bit of insight into what does it look like inside of our bodies in our mitochondria? What's happening there?
Well, the mitochondria are little organelles. They're little powerhouses inside the cell, and they make ATP, the energy molecule that basically runs everything in the cell. And so the health of a mitochondria is really important, because if you want energy, mitochondria also make a couple other things. They make pregnenolone, the precursor molecule for all the hormones. So if they're not doing that, you're not going to have enough hormones. And they make some of the precursors for RNA and DNA synthesis, which are really important for protein production and cellular reproduction.
Okay, so is it safe to assume if you are having hormonal issues that it would benefit you to optimize your mitochondrial health?
Oh, absolutely. That might be because that's usually the cause for a lot of things, because as people get older, the mitochondria, they're like little furnaces, and they make pollution, oxidative radicals essentially, and your body makes antioxidants to take care of that pollution. But the problem is that as you get older, those antioxidants go down, so that your mitochondria are not as efficient. And when that happens, well, then you're not getting hormones. And that's also, like, you've always heard the LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol. Well, it's not bad. LDL cholesterol is turned into pregnenolone in your mitochondria, and then the pregnenolone turns into hormones. And the actual problems have LDL cholesterol because as you get older, you're not processing, the LDL is not being turned into hormones and a couple other things. And so it just builds up in your arteries until it oxidizes, and then that causes it to stick to your arteries, and you've got hardening of the arteries. So that's entirely due to mitochondria malfunction. Okay. And so keeping your mitochondria running, it's just one thing after another. I mean, they're just the powerhouses. If the power goes down or gets less, nothing works very well anymore. And which is one of the key things that you see in aging. Things kind of just run down.
Okay. So you mentioned the LDL cholesterol in the buildup there. A lot of people, once they find out that they've got high LDL cholesterol, their doctor will say, hey, get on XYZ prescription to lower that. But the reality is oftentimes the cholesterol creation and increase in that cholesterol is a response. The body is attempting to heal itself, and it's using that production of cholesterol in order to protect itself. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, your brain's over 50% cholesterols, and it's a fat. It's like it's kind of one of the key building blocks. And like statins. Mm-hmm. Statins destroy the CoQ10 processing pathway, which is one of the key 4 antioxidants that's super important for your body. And even if you supplement when you're on statins, it's still your life will be cut very short. I'm not a medical doctor, but I can tell you from actual research studies, that's what happens.
So, all right. So let's go back to mitochondrial health. How does the mitochondria, I mean, you explained ATP in the powerhouse and the furnace of the cells, but how does it specifically give you physical energy, mental energy? How's the mitochondria supporting what's actually happening up here in our brains?
Well, basically the mitochondria take ketones and glucose, and they synthesize it and use it as a fuel to make ATP, the adenine triphosphate, the energy molecule of the cell, and it goes out there and used up, and then it becomes. And then it's used up, and then it has to come back to your mitochondria. In fact, if you looked at the ATP processing in your cells, if you add every time it went through, you put a weight on it, it'd be like 50 pounds a day. So the ATP processing, it goes adenine triphosphate to adenine diphosphate, then back to triphosphate, then diphosphate. It's kind of like this cycling. And if you did that cycling, it'd be 50 pounds each time. So that's a huge amount of, that's the number one biological activity in your cells, in your life. That's it. That's what keeps you alive. And so it's the number one biochemical reaction that's going on.
Okay. So let's talk about oxidative stress and free radicals. Now, like, what's the connection? What's happening? What's the mechanism between, oxidative stress and free radicals being created, and how that impacts your mitochondrial function?
Well, free radicals are just basically, they're oxidative stress. They're basically your body rusting.
Mm-hmm.
Things rust. That's what an oxidative radical is. It's basically an oxygen of some sort that's ripped an electron off something, and there's all kinds of different ones. Some are just totally bad. Some your body actually uses as signaling molecules, and it's just there. I mean, most things as they break down, they rust, right?
Mm-hmm.
They produce oxidative radicals. So a lot of toxins and proteins and other things, as they break down, they produce oxidative radicals. So you have to have a system of antioxidants to prevent the breakdown products from damaging, more things, because they'll rip an electron off this, and that'll cause a whole cascade of effects. So you want to stop that before it happens, because otherwise you have health problems.
Okay. What I'm still not totally tracking on the connection between mitochondria and free radicals. Like
mitochondria is a furnace. Mitochondria make free radicals. They make superoxides and occasional hydroxyl ion. And so, your body has antioxidants when you're younger to take care of that. But, as you get older, they go down. But then there's a lot of oxidative radicals that just happen because things break down, because we breathe oxygen. So there's a lot of oxygen in our bodies and cells, and they cause, rusting or oxidation of the cell membranes of everything. So you just have to have a high level of antioxidants to prevent, things from basically rusting down. It's just like because you're water and you got oxygen, that causes rust. So you want to avoid that.
So if you don't want your body to rust, what can you do?
Well, I mean, obviously you could stay healthy. You want to do things that aren't causing damage, like avoid toxins. Some certain foods are really bad for you and cause damage. Toxins of various sorts. They're just a gob of industrial toxins, but also things that people eat. Like, for instance, one of the worst is seed oils, because those omega-6 things, they cause inflammation because they don't have what it takes, and your body takes them in and tries to build stuff with them, and it has gaps and holes, and things break, and you get oxidative damage on your cell membranes because you're using the wrong building brackets. If you put bricks that aren't quite fitting, try to build a house with bricks that aren't quite symmetrical with each other, you'd have obviously some structural problems. And it's the same way in your cell walls. So, I mean, there's just an infinite, a whole lot of different ways. You have radiation. I mean, just radiation from, a sunburn, that's oxidative damage. Basically, that it's the UV radiation has gone and knocked an electron off of a molecule and caused a cascade of oxidative damage. And then that causes all kinds of causes damage to the cells. The cells put out cytokines. And then neutrophils get in there, and basically you get inflammation. That's what the red and swelling is. It's just a sign of damage, and your body's sending its troops in there to try to repair the damage. But it's everywhere. I mean,
what about cell phone use?
Your cell phones, yeah, they used to think that cell phones didn't have damage because they didn't heat up tissue, but now they found things like cell phones will jam open voltage-gated channels, specifically the calcium channels. So calcium from outside the cell will leak into the cell, and that just causes havoc because it's destroying the ionic balance, and that's going to cause oxidative radicals. So there's just, and then there's, of course, atomic radiation, which, Fukushima and those other things.
Chernobyl.
And so, yep, all those things are still with us. That a lot of that radiation doesn't go away for centuries. So,
well, it's still Fukushima. Speaking of that, it's still dumping into the ocean right now. Into the
ocean.
It hasn't stopped, and people don't realize that.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. Okay, so we've got the healthy lifestyle choices, and we've got the things that you can do. You can avoid some of these toxins. You can try to make choices to stay away from some of these things, but help us understand where C60 comes in this whole equation with mitochondrial function and oxidative stress. How does it all come together?
Well, C60 covers a specific section that nothing else does. Like, you can eat your blueberries and your colored vegetables and your broccoli family type things, and they have all kinds of wonderful antioxidants, and you should be doing that. And then there's some key antioxidants that really are important for you. And like CoQ10, that's one of the key 4 ones. You can supplement for CoQ10. And if you're older, you should be supplementing for CoQ10. And then there's our ubiquitol is often another one that's a CoQ10 similarity one. Your body changes it. And then there's glutathione. Now you can supplement for some glutathione. They've got some good products out now. It doesn't always necessarily it's going to get to the cells where it needs to. But there's a couple things like SOD, superoxide dismutase, and dismutase and catalase, and they work together to take care of superoxide, the number one most damaging oxidative in the radical in the body. And that's taken care of by SOD and catalase. And C60 actually does the job of SOD and catalase in one stop for getting rid of superoxide. So there is no way to supplement with SOD or catalase. Those have to be made in the cells, and there's just no way to supplement for them. Until C60 came along, C60 is a mimic. It can like neutralize superoxide and reset itself naturally on its own energy. Most antioxidants like glutathione, when it oxidizes something, it changes its shape, it's stuck to it. You have to have some enzymes, some ATP to reset it so it's back up. Same with SOD and catalase. They still have to be reset once they encounter their oven. But C60 actually can do it on its own. It's almost a magical process. C60, unlike any other, this is a little bit of science here, folks, any other molecule in chemistry, it likes to have a positive charge. Oxidative radicals tend to be negatively charged, so they stick to a positive charge. But it gets that by pulling hydrogen ions from the outside environment and storing its cage-like structure. You can kind of see those little white things there. And nothing else in the world does that. Absolutely. They all give off an electron into the environment and become an oxidative radical or another ionic thing of something. And so that's just so C60 is the only molecule that does that, and that's its secret. And so it can reset itself because there's your water in your body is making hydrogen ions and hydroxyls spontaneously all the time, and then they cancel out. Well, C60 just pulls hydrogen ions from just the environment in your body, stores it in its cage-like structure, which tends to make your body more alkali, which is a good thing. And then it uses those to neutralize oxidative radicals. And usually it takes superoxide, turns it back to an oxygen. The hydroxyl ion just turns it back into a water. And then it resets itself again and again and again and again as many times as it needs. That's one of its keys because it doesn't burden body chemistry, in resetting it, like glutathione, SOD, and catalase. They all need a little bit of ATP and enzymes to reset themselves.
Okay, so how, explain to us and help us understand, how does this resetting itself, how is that different than conventional antioxidants? Because not only is C60 hundreds of times, it's been characterized as hundreds of times more powerful than conventional antioxidants, but this resetting is very unique. So help us understand kind of the connection there.
Once a conventional antioxidant, once they react with an oxidative radical, that's it. Now, some like those green, the colors and the green xanthans, once they oxidize, that's it. They're oxidized, then they have to be got rid of, right? Okay. Other ones like vitamin C, it oxidizes, it can reset, certain things like vitamin C, CoQ10, vitamin D, vitamin E, these can be reset. SOD, they can be reset, but it takes energy and time and enzymes, where C60 doesn't need that. It just does its oxidative antioxidant job and then resets itself again and again and again. So it's unique. And that's why it's so, there's nothing else like it. No other antioxidant has any similarities whatsoever. And it has no toxicity at all because C60 only interacts with the two oxidative radicals, superoxide and the hydroxyl ion, that the body does not use as signaling molecules. It doesn't interact with the nitrogen oxides. That's vasodilators. That's why if you take too much vitamin E or vitamin C, you can actually have negative effects because they start interfering with the nitrogen oxides. That's what makes your capillaries dilate and contract. And if they're not doing that right, you can have serious health problems. Also, hydrogen peroxide, that's also used as a signaling molecule. And there's some others with lower energy levels, antioxidative radicals that the body uses for signaling molecules. And a lot of antioxidants will interfere with that. That's why they found that vitamin C and vitamin E will not increase athletic performance.
Really?
They've actually tested it, and it actually, above a certain level, it actually goes down. And so that's because it interferes with those signaling molecules, where with C60, there's no such limitation. C60 doesn't interfere with any of the body's signaling molecules, So, and it actually is the only antioxidant that can increase athletic performance. And so that's its unique, that's its uniqueness.
So that's a great point. How specifically does it help support athletic performance? How?
Well, basically when your mitochondria start cranking out, they need ATP, right? They start cranking out, they'll put out huge amounts of superoxide and hydroxyl ions, and they'll just overwhelm your body's antioxidant capacity. That's why you get tired, because it starts messing with the Krebs cycle, the ATP production, and you get the lactic acid buildup. Mm-hmm. Lactic acid buildup is the sign that your own cell's antioxidant production has been overwhelmed. And then you have to stop running because your cells can't function anymore. You just can't go on, and then until that gets fixed, and then you can start up again. And so when people take C60, that lactic acid buildup is slowed down dramatically. And a lot of other things aren't made. When you make a lot of superoxides and it floods out into your cells, it's getting out there, because you can make 50 times more superoxide when you're exercising than when you're resting.
Okay.
And so like the superoxide will get out and it'll combine with the nitrogen oxide, make peroxynitrate. And that's a low reactive antioxidative radical, but it can go a long ways to do its damage. That's what DOMS is. You get that soreness you get.
Delayed onset muscle soreness.
Delayed onset muscle soreness. That's what you get after a couple days, is because those peroxynitrates have gone everywhere and caused damage. And the body doesn't have a lot of antioxidants to take care of that particular thing. But if you stop the superoxide before it makes that, combines with nitrogen oxide to make that, then you get less damage to the body.
So again, is it safe to say, based on what you just said, that you can't overdose on C60?
No, you can't. They've actually tried that in scientific studies. They usually, for scientific studies, they found that the effective level of C60 is like 0.1 milligrams to 0.2 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. And so finally they decided, let's test C60. How toxic is it? So they took it up to 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. That's like 10,000 times the health beneficial dose. And even at that level, there wasn't any toxicity from the C60. And now if you tried that with vitamin E, you would have killed the animal, guaranteed. So that just kind of tells you the safety of C60, because C60 only interacts with those oxidative radicals that are not used as signaling molecules. Whereas vitamin E would react with, the molecules that are signaling molecules, like nitrogen oxide and probably some of the other ones, and that it would just shut down your body's capacity to signal, and you would die, or the animal would die. And so that's why C60 is completely safe.
Okay. Is it also safe to say, based on your breakdown of athletic performance in C60, that C60 would support athletes who are working out hard, have less soreness, they would have faster recovery time and more energy? Oh,
absolutely. And we know some mid-packers that went to champions in their fields, not saying any names.
All right. Well, Ken, I really appreciate your feedback today. Just a couple more questions for you. If you had to recommend one C60 flavor specifically for athletic performance, which one would you recommend?
I would recommend the MCT coconut oil.
Okay.
C60, because what it is MCTs, that stands for medium chain triglycerides. Coconut oil, by the way, is fully saturated. And so when you have MCTs, your liver will take those little short MCTs and turn them into ketones, which your cells can pull right out of the bloodstream and use as a fuel. It's like high octane fuel for your body. So if you you got high octane fuel and an antioxidant to take care of the pollution from that fuel in one shot. And so that's why those two together go great. If you're an athlete, C60 and MCT coconut oil is the way to go.
Awesome. Okay, so now let's say this is the first time you're hearing this information. You've never tried C60. You're curious, and maybe your energy is really low. You're not used to taking oils on a daily basis, healthy oils. Maybe eat a lot of French fries or something. You're like, I'm going to change my life. Which C60 would you recommend to start with?
I'd probably do avocado oil.
Okay.
And actually, and if you've never taken olive oil, just put it in your food. That's you can do. Don't cook with it, because if it oxidizes, you could put it in boiling food, smoothie, But obviously, if if you're baking or grilling, probably not, because it's carbon. It'll carbonize, and then it won't be worth anything. So yeah, you can put it. We have an avocado oil, olive oil. You can use that on a salad. You can add it to your smoothie. You can put it on, your
But
eggs
the
in the morning.
avocado oil is the easiest to
Yeah,
digest.
it's easiest
So
to
if
digest.
If you're brand new, that's the easiest.
Yeah,
thing
that
for
would
you
be
to
the
do.
one to go to.
Okay. All
And
right.
it doesn't really taste much at all. So it's, olive oil can be a little bit bite,
Yeah.
The Italians love it, but sometimes too much olive oil can be a bit of a bite.
Okay. Well, I love the olive oil. If I do any intermittent fasting, when I break my fast, I typically choose the olive oil to put like on my salad or veggies or whatever I'm having that day. So that's a lot of fun. Well, Ken, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for swinging by.
Okay,
and,
great.
We'll talk to you later. If you guys like this content, appreciate learning new things about science with Ken, the scientist, please subscribe to the channel, like it, and share it with somebody who this information could benefit. And if you'd like to try C60, please visit shopc60.com and you can use the coupon code the C60 show for 10% off your first order. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys later.
Yes.
Bye.